Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. As you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, this is going to be my February wrap-up. It's insane that it's already the end of February. It feels like February just started. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about all of the books that I read in February and briefly mention the stats. So first, let's just jump in with the stats. And if I look over there, my spreadsheet is open and I have all that information over there. So I read 16 books, which was 5,462 pages. The average star rating was a 3.9. For the format, I read 1 audiobook, 12 ebooks, 1 mixed, and 2 physical. And the audiences were 6 adult, 9 new adult, and 1 YA. And for the genres, I read 4 contemporary, 5 dark romance, 2 erotic, 3 fantasy, and 2 romance. So definitely was kind of more contemporary romance and all that, kind of heavy, which, I mean, February, Valentine's Day, romance, all of that kind of fits. So now let's just jump into the book. So the first book I read this month was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a hockey romance, basically. In this book, we follow Anastasia, who is a figure skater, and Nathan, who is the captain of the hockey team. And when an incident happens where the figure skaters and the hockey team have to share a rink, normally they have 2 separate rinks, but they have to share. Anastasia and Nate, or Nathan, I'll probably call him Nate because that's the name he goes by more, but Anastasia and Nate end up kind of their paths cross a lot more, and they kind of like begrudgingly kind of start a friendship, which then leads to more because Nate is very into Anastasia and she's kind of just like, I don't want to mess with you, and all of that. He's very much sunshine, she's very grumpy, and I loved that. Their personalities bounced off each other so much, and the smut was really good. So of course I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. It made me want to read a lot more hockey romance. Unfortunately, I didn't, but I'm now like, I love them so much. Cue the Cruel Summer Uber scene playing in my head as I'm talking about them. If you know, you know. But I loved this, and I now definitely want a physical copy to reread, to annotate, to tab, to do everything with. I loved it. The next is There Is No Saints by Sophie Lark. This was my first Sophie Lark book, and I'm pleased to announce that it was a 4.5. And in this, basically, we follow Cole Blackwell, who is a artist by day, serial killer by night, and Mara Eldridge, I think that's her last name, or something like that, who is just kind of a struggling artist trying to make ends meet with her art and like 3 different jobs. And when Mara is targeted by one of Cole's like serial killer friends, Alistair, Mara ends up being on Cole's radar because she is one of Alistair's victims who survived, which does not happen. And Cole then begins stalking Mara to keep an eye on her while also becoming obsessed with her. This is the first stalker romance I have read, and it's exactly what I wanted and what I thought it would be. So I'm very happy with that. I think the only reason it wasn't a 5 is just because there were some moments that I was just like, okay, now that's just a little weird even for my taste. But I am so excited to read There Is No Devil, which is book 2, fingers crossed, in March. I wasn't able to get to it in February, but I'm really excited to continue the series, and I definitely want to read more like serial killer stalking-esque books, so maybe a vlog idea, who knows? And then I finished a series. That is a new concept to me, apparently. But I read Locked in Love by Dana Isley, which is the 5th and final book in the Nick and Holly series. This is basically a series of novellas where you are following Nick and Holly as they live their life. In the first book, Dipped in Holly, you see them meet around Christmas. Book 2, Claimed by Cupid, spend Valentine's Day together. And then there's Bound in Cabo, Dipped by Daddy, and then Locked in Love, where they are getting married and it's just their wedding, and it's honestly so wholesome and so sweet. I gave it 4 stars. And when in doubt, it's a novella, so I don't really have much to talk about, but it was a nice ending to their story, and it definitely was more tame compared to the other books in the series, as there was only like 2 smut scenes, which honestly, I expected more. But it ended off the series nicely, and overall, I loved it. And then I read Set by Alexandria House, which I gave 3.5. This basically is a erotic novella where we are following Set and Karima, I think. And basically, they knew each other in high school but didn't like interact. Like, it was more of like they knew of each other. 20 years later, they meet at their high school's like 20-year like reunion, and they hit it off. And then now we are 3 years later, as things are getting really serious, because in the last 3 years they've kept it to pretty casual sex, just kind of, they're not mixing their personal lives together. It's pretty much just like, oh, maybe we'll meet here this weekend, like in a city that neither of them are from, and just spend the weekend together. But this time when Karima goes to Set's house, feelings change, things change, and it's very smutty. It is a erotic novella. I feel like I already mentioned that, and it was pretty good. I did listen to the audiobook, which definitely, that first line, I was like, oh dear lord. Did not expect that to be the first line. But overall, I enjoyed it. I will be continuing the series, especially for when I just need like a quick and easy read. So the next book was Ache by Marlene Valentine, which is an MM romance. And basically in this, we have Gail and Jordan. And the book starts off where we are going to Vegas to celebrate Gail's like bachelor party, because he is marrying a woman named Elena. And while we are in Vegas, let's just say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and Gail and Jordan hook up because they've had feelings for each other since they were like 18. They're now like 30 or something like that. So there's been a lot of like long time coming feelings, and it happens in Vegas. But something else happens in Vegas that changes the trajectory of what happened, and it is more than that. I feel like that's all I can explain. But like, it's the stereotypical like gay guy, straight guy, best friends type thing, and I ate this shit up. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars just because this might be a mild spoiler, but it has the amnesia trope, which I hate, but I will say it was done decently in here. I just kind of hate how some information was kept and just how some things were executed, so that's why it was 3.5. I will be reading other books by this author when I definitely need just kind of like a quick and easy, fairly formulaic read, because it did feel very much like we're following a formula, which sometimes isn't a bad thing at all. Now, I'm going to talk about 4 books because they're all a part of a series, and that is the Evergreen Academy series by Ruby Vincent. So the books are Marked, which I gave 3 stars, Broken, which I gave 3 stars, Bound, which I gave 3 stars, and Unmasked, which I gave 3.5 stars. So this basically, we are following Valentina Moon as she enters the Evergreen Academy, which is kind of like this exclusive like high school basically. And so she joins, and she ends up getting what is called Marked, which basically means that there's kind of no rules around her, meaning that everybody bullies her, including the Knights, which are these kind of 4 guys that are like picked to kind of not control the student population, but to ensure that rules are being followed, and they are kind of like the alpha of the school. Like, pretty much if they say something, they say to jump, you ask how high, that kind of dynamic. And she also gets kind of close with them as things happen, and overall it is just kind of like a bully romance. I did label this as contemporary because it definitely is more contemporary, just like how I labeled it new adult, even though the characters are YA age, but it has more new adult themes. And this definitely was interesting. It definitely had some like mystery elements because there's this group called the Spades, which is kind of this like elusive thing at this school where it's like nobody knows who they actually are or what they do, but they have the power to mark somebody and they are the ones that pick the knights. And so it was pretty good. It's nothing to write home to, but it's like I binged it in a week. Not even, I think. It was definitely very addicting, which is also why I read the sequel series, which is the Somerset University series, which it consists of Ruthless, which I gave 4 stars, Wicked, which I gave 4 stars, Mercy, which I gave 3.5, and Redemption, which I gave 3.5. And I obviously can't talk too much about this. It's obviously a spin-off series of the Evergreen Academy series, which basically we're following Valentina and the 4 knights as they go to university, and you are dealing with a new threat, to put it nicely. And again, this is one that I binged in like a week. I pretty much read the entire Evergreen Academy and Somerset University series in less than 2 weeks, I think. I think it was like 11 or 12 days, something like that. Kind of with the Somerset University series, it's like nothing to write home about. It is very simplistic, but I will say the kind of big reveal in the 4th book of what it was all leading up to was a little bit disappointing, but it was still a fun read because I do really enjoy these characters and will be reading more by this author in the future. So the next 2 books I'm also going to be talking about together because I read them at the same time, and that is Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. I did my tandem read of these. These both I gave 5 stars. I absolutely love. This is the 5th and the 6th book in the Throne of Glass series, which I will explain Throne of Glass, even though these are completely irrelevant pretty much to what that is about. But Throne of Glass, basically we follow an assassin named Celaena Stardothian as she's been imprisoned for the last year in the mines of Endover for crimes that she committed. A year has passed since she was put in these mines, and now Prince Dorian has come to kind of save her and offer her she basically competes in this assassin competition to become the king's assassin, and if she wins, she will serve the king for 5 years and then gain her freedom. And now in this, we are very much political. We are very much a lot more than that. That is literally nothing is irrelevant pretty much. But these take place at the same time, so I tandem read them, which is what these tabs are. I also kind of tabbed them. And I love this series so much. I love anything by Sarah J. Maas, so I was really happy to be able to reread these and tandem read them. It was such a fun experience. So yeah. And then the final book to talk about is Crush by Tracy Wolff, which is the 2nd book in the Crave series. The 1st book is Crave, which basically we follow Grace, who after her parents die, she's sent to a boarding school in Alaska that is ran by her uncle. Little does she know that this school is for the paranormal, so she has to navigate her way through the school while also being kind of targeted for things. And in this, we are following the story up 4 months later, and yeah, I give this 5 stars. I loved it. I did host a live show for this book, which I'll leave linked up in the iCard and the description. So go check that out if you want to hear literally all of my thoughts on this, but I really enjoyed it. So that is my February wrap-up and my stats. Let me know what is one book that you read in February, or what is one book that you want to read in March. How about we'll ask that? But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!